If you counted on the mainstream media's coverage of the Rittenhouse trial and then went back and watched the actual trial later, you wouldn't recognize Kyle Rittenhouse at all. It would be an eye-opening experience just how shameless the liberal agenda is in our mainstream press. According to the media, the 17-year-old boy who shot two and injured a third last August is a full-blown white supremacist mass shooter who drove to a random city to hunt down peaceful protesters with an insatiable bloodlust. Most of the media have already convicted Rittenhouse, even as most legal experts sitting right next to them anticipate a potential acquittal. In a since-deleted tweet, CBS straight up called Rittenhouse a murderer, quote, breaking down in tears as he told the jury he murdered two men at a Black Lives Matter protest last year in self-defense. How do you murder in self-defense, by the way? It may seem like a simple Twitter mistake by whatever 20-year-old is running their Twitter account, but that is actually really how the press feels about this story. It really is. It's an insight into them. Political cartoonist Ben Garrison with a fantastic illustration right here. Kyle Rittenhouse trial by media, he calls it. Corporate media covers the Rittenhouse trial, and it's pretty dead on. That's pretty much how this has looked. Garrison tweeting, "Our right to defend ourselves is on trial." And that's very true. And that's really what's happening here. The same media that condoned the destruction of our cities last year, riots and violence that killed many and destroyed Americans' sense of safety and security. Yes, that same media is doing everything in its power to destroy a young man who clearly defended his own life by taking two others. Here's how the press sees it, by the way. Kyle Rittenhouse is on trial in Wisconsin, but so is vigilantism, the startling rise of white vigilante violence, and on and on and on. Over at CNN, here's Don Lemon's take.
It is the ultimate degree of entitlement when people believe that this is how they're supposed to be. What the right is saying about Kyle Rittenhouse is that, well, the government didn't do its job, so it took a 17-year-old kid to come in and do what was right. That's vigilantism. That's not what people are not supposed to be vigilantes. We're not supposed to be taking justice into our own hands.
Such entitlement. How dare you try to push back when Marxist anarchists are trying to destroy your city? Spoiled white Americans that don't want their town to burn down and their business to burn down. Let the mob destroy your city or you're a white supremacist. So that's the deal? For the record, being chased and attacked until you're forced to defend your life, your own life, is not vigilantism, by the way. And also, by the way, Don Lemon lives in the Hamptons, one of the wealthiest and whitest places on earth, just so you know. This week, one of the most powerful Democrats in Congress, Hakeem Jeffries of New York, risked tainting the jury pool by tweeting this little beauty out: "Lock up Kyle Rittenhouse and throw away the key," right in the middle of a frickin' trial. He puts this tweet out. The same guy who last year tweeted, "End mass incarceration, defund the prison industrial complex." What a clown. A clown with a lot of power. How anybody expected this trial to be fair to Rittenhouse is incredible. The current president of the United States convicted Rittenhouse last year in a campaign ad. Watch the ad. It shows Rittenhouse just as the narrator says, white supremacists.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha?
By the way, not a narrator, that's Fox's Chris Wallace, obviously. But what kind of country is this? Our political leaders so desperate for clout that they just convict kids of crimes they know nothing about? Nobody knew anything about what had happened at that point. Joe Biden doesn't even know his own middle name. Do you think he has any clue what happened in Kenosha that night? Of course he doesn't. He's just a pandering fool trying to secure a vote. But thankfully, real Americans are actually seeing through this. Earlier this week, we spoke to a reporter who's been in court the entire time there in Kenosha. He said that the jury seems very sympathetic to Rittenhouse. Well, of course they do. They're actually watching his trial. And then there's this tweet thread, which is very interesting, coming from a liberal, from a hedge fund manager named Bill Ackman. Nobody you should know, but this has gone viral for all the right reasons. Ackman writing, "After watching the direct testimony and cross-examination, we came away believing that Kyle is telling the truth and acted in self-defense." Several tweets later, he writes, quote, "Just got a call from the media asking if my Twitter account was hacked. The reporter couldn't conceive of the idea that I could believe that Kyle is innocent because I am not a right-winger." How crazy is that? That's really scary. But again, most of the people that are all hyped up about this didn't watch the trial. So our embarrassing national media has painted their picture for them, and they have an agenda. If you had watched the trial, you'd know that this is the real Kyle Rittenhouse.
I was a police explorer for Grays Lake Police Department, and I was a firefighter EMT cadet for Antioch Fire Department. I am a certified lifeguard and swim instructor. I am certified in Stop the Bleed, CPR, AED, automatic external defibrillator, and basic life support.
He's so scary, isn't he? Shaking in your boots, aren't you? The day before the shootings, this is what Kyle Rittenhouse was doing. He was cleaning graffiti off of a school in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which, by the way, is where his father lives. So all those out there that say he crossed state lines, he was just in search of protesters to kill, and he went to some random city with bloodlust. No, his dad lives there, and it's about 20 minutes from where his mom lives, too. They live right on the border. On Friday, Rittenhouse's attorney said that his client suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder and had been in therapy for this. This, of course, after what we saw this week, him breaking down in court, crying. And again, I thought he was going to throw up. It was really, really jarring, and you could tell there's a lot of trauma there. But the mainstream press saw this moment, and this is how they responded to it.
Kyle Rittenhouse tearfully testified at his murder trial in Wisconsin, like a mini Brett Kavanaugh.
And that acting job of the crying, I can't even look at it.
Well, this is the...
That is one of the worst acting jobs I've ever seen.
And if anybody knows bad acting, it's Joy Behar. That's the truth. Is she not the worst? I mean, is she just so awful? What an awful, miserable human being. Making a ton of money, and she probably hates looking in the mirror, I would think. An even worse actor, Space Jam, LeBron James joining in. What tears? I didn't see one. Man, knock it off. That boy ate some lemon heads before walking into court. Ha, 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 ha. So one of the most powerful black men in the country is just picking on kids now. To anyone not blinded by partisan hatred, Rittenhouse's breakdown was clearly real. If you watched it, you knew it was real. He's an 18-year-old kid. You'd have to be the best actor in Hollywood to pull that off. For anyone who wants to see a staged cry and some really crappy acting, we can all just remember Jussie Smollett.
I was talking to a friend, and I said, I just want them to find them. And she said, sweetie, they're not going to find them. And that just made me so angry.
It's so good. Baby, they're not going to find him. No, they're going to find him. They're your personal trainers. What were their names? I can't remember their names. The brothers. I can't remember. We got it in my ear? I can't remember it either. Okay, we don't know. You know what we're talking about, though. Those are the real attackers. A clearly scripted interview with ABC's Robin Roberts, a half-ass fake actor, Jussie Smollett, caught in a fake scam. The media supported him all the way. Asandario brothers. That's it. The same media demanding you acknowledge that Kyle Rittenhouse is a white supremacist mass shooter. They said, no, Jussie Smollett's a victim. Most of them still think Jussie Smollett's a victim. Remember when NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace claimed that he found a noose in his Talladega garage? Everybody went nuts over that story. The media all in on it before they even had a clue what the hell had happened. They were all in on the story. It turned out to be a rope pull for a garage door, something that anybody that's not in the media that actually grew up in a house that had a garage and didn't grow up in New York City would know. If you don't have a little garage door opener with the button, you get a little pull. That's how you get the garage open and closed. The FBI determined it was not a hate crime, that Wallace was not the victim of a hate crime, but by then the media was over the story, right? It didn't matter anymore. They were on to their next hit job. And who could forget the Covington kids, those horrible boys who ruthlessly mocked the Native American man at the Lincoln Memorial? Such an innocent man he was. Your national press put a huge target on Nicholas Sandmann's back. High school kids getting death threats thanks to the press. And then the real story came out. Oh, the Indian guy was taunting him. Oh, he was just standing there. The Indian guy walked up to him and got in his face. Oh, well, you know, now nobody cares. Sandmann has sued the hell out of the mainstream press. I can only hope that generations of his family are buying Ferraris with CNN's money.